to this second webcast today. As I said already, it is called Make It Your Own, and the topic is about how to customize IBM Digital Workplace Hub. So let's start. Quick about the session. This session may get a bit technical, but no worries, it's not too much, and we try to explain everything. So when to be technical, it's almost to your help, almost every time to your help, and it's not too technical. I try to get a good mixture of a few slides and a bit of hands-on, and in the end we will have some questions and answering. Free to type in some questions during the webcast. Christian, who is online as well, will try to answer them, and if he cannot, I try to do it afterwards and try to read them when I'm finished with presenting. As already said, this session will be recorded, and we will make this session available on YouTube later. You will get a link to it. Today, I am the main presenter. My name is Michael Golmik. I'm a software architect, development consultant with TimeTech Software and Consulting. You see email address. I have a few years of experience with IBM technologies, and I'm focused on the XCC product, on doing web applications, and on IBM connections. I'm one of the first members of the XCC team, and I'm in the team since 2012. My presenter, who will probably not be able to present, is Christian Luxem, and he is a software architect, developer, and consultant with TimeTech. He has a bachelor in economic computer science, and he's focused on XCC web applications and IBM connections as well. He came to the team a bit later. Pardon me?
You should, Michael. I think
yes,
I also got my video enabled. So as you see at the moment, back from Berlin to Cologne. So, but I will answer questions in the chat and hopefully also on the telephone line. But thank you.
Okay. Page is our agenda. That's what we try to cover today. We will talk about alternative navigation concepts, especially about the enterprise collaboration side and the internal communication side on navigation concepts. We show you, and we will a bit discuss how to integrate them in one experience. Next part will be controlling and designing layout if you are working on IBM connections, and especially on the IBM Digital Workplace Hub with XCC. With the control and the design, I try to talk about the custom grids, the custom CSS, and about custom JavaScript that are all possibilities to customize user experience with XCC. And as a third last part, we want to show you how you can get more control about the content that you see. This is part on by personalization, and that means the passive and the active personalization. And we will be talking about profile extensions, and I will show you a bit more about magic strings and things that you can use within XCC to get even more control about the things you show. So I had to do the question and answering section, and at the end, as I said, feel free to put in the questions already in the text stream. Christian is trying to answer them, and if I get some questions that are really necessary, well, of course, we can try to bring them just during the presentation. Start with the alternative navigation concepts. I got some graphic here which should just be showing how much navigation can differ for different sites. It should be a bit confusing because navigation is the thing that brings just confusing things that are in the navigation parts. So alternative alternative navigation concepts that we are discussing. So there is a focus on information sharing for the enterprise collaboration side of view. That's what you get to see in the classical part of
Kannst du oben in der kleinen Kamera.
I don't know what happened, but we hear or see you.
Yeah, I'm back. I'm sorry.
Okay, no problem.
I have muted all and back. I hope so, but there's not so much noise anymore. So back to alternative navigation concepts. What you as the first point is a classical, almost classical IBM Connections navigation, which has a clear focus on information sharing. It's showing you the information applications that are running inside IBM Connections, so like profiles and the My Page, which we call stream in this particular picture, and the communities applications and all the other applications. So it's more IT-centric and information sharing-centric. Quite approach is the internal communication side of on information, which has a focus on information consumption to the end user. So I have what I've put there is a classical navigation that might exist in any intranet world, which has a typical home page and some about us and organization, and just a view on how information is brought to the user. So both of these navigations seem to be mutually exclusive, seem to be rivals, but they are not. You with them, and you can get a view to both focus at the same time. I'll show you. So let's get into the dedicated communication side, which is that we had at first. So I'm going a bit more quickly into it. This would be having a top navigation driven from IBM Connections, as we have seen at the view, and having a second navigation on the very same page, which is the information push navigation that I was talking to as well. So you have navigations on the same screen, which might be helpful to the user and might help them to reach everything they need, and they just have to decide what navigation they want to use at the moment. It's just integrate them to one navigation. What I've from here is the second screenshot, which is integrating just the information consumption type of navigation that's showing you the push view things, but and on the right top side even have still the collaboration side of view in there. So the centric and the collaboration-centric enterprise collaboration is integrated into the very same menu. You have just to get used to having an integrated navigation. And the screenshot you're seeing here is taken from a live website, from a live Digital Workplace Hub site that we have, where exactly this navigation established by some custom JavaScript and is mixing our own navigation with the navigation that IBM Connections provides as well. So in case you have only one navigation and all the entries mixed together. A point it just excludes the collaboration-centric navigation. In some cases, this might make sense to say people should more consume and not work in the collaboration part. If this is the taste in your organization, this could be helpful. What you see here is connections where the top navigation points from IBM Connections have been removed and have been replaced with just information-centric navigation. So this is focused on communication and not on collaboration in that case. You are still able to get to the applications that are in IBM Connections, but the main nav just focused on communication. Was it about the navigation types and the different opportunities that you might have there? Let's now get over to the second part of controlling and designing your layout. So, customization of the header is one of the things that might come to your mind if you think about modification and customization. And that was, as they had in the last webcast, Christian has said very well how you can easily, well, comparably easily change the header navigation, exchange words, put some things into it, especially adding the link to XCC to the top navigation. This we leave out and we go a bit deeper because we want to show you how to change XCC's layout. What we cover is the custom grids, the custom CSS, and the custom JavaScript. And that's the sequence how I want to get through that. So X already comes with 22 different grids. It is nothing but an way to place the widgets on the page. And we are already delivering 22 different grids with XCC. But as we know, 22 different options is almost never enough. That's why I have decided you can replace these grids. All you have to do for a grid with a hand-crafted, own-made grid that really fit the needs that you have is you need to get the old template. You find that HTML, it's nothing but HTML. Then you re-upload this custom file to the custom file sections inside XCC, and you call it custom layout grid HTML. And then you have quite a different grid. The documentation of XCC mentions this in chapter 3.1 extensively, but I'm still able to show you how this works. So if you want to get some grids, you just have to unpack the XCC ER file, get to the XCC WAR file, and then go to the directory templates and layout. Then they can select one of the 22 templates that we are providing. Copy that file, rename it, customize and extend it, because this is only HTML. Anyone who is able to do HTML can do this. Have to change some placeholders, or you have to take care of the placeholders, which is here as an example, the div class widget and so on, will denominate the first widget that is on the page in this case. And all the data position and position just count up, and the only thing you have to take care of is they have to be unique inside that HTML snippet, and that's it. After that, you just need to read this file to custom section and then go down. So I'm sorry, page. I will put together a small example on. I have something for that, so we will add a page header very prominently onto the site. And we want to do this in the grid layout 1 HTML. We want to, so for that, in order to do that, we just that file. I have done this before. We open an HTML editor of our choice, Atom on the Mac or Notepad++. Absolutely convenient. It'd be just an editor and nothing more. You add some 5 lines of code. As you see, I've put the HTML code in there to make it possible to you to do these few steps on your later if you want to, and we will be presenting this slides later on as a download. And then you go to the custom files. So what I have prepared here is I open up my Atom editor that I have here, and we have a grid layout file, and these are the 5 lines or the 5 lines of code that you should add in there. It's called layout 1 HTML file, and that's it. Then go to the to your inside XCC. You just page once again to make sure your session has not expired, as my have. Your customize section, go to XCC settings. The grid file that I have prepared is just over here on the right side. You get to the custom file section. You put it in, then after output, it has grid layout 1 has been uploaded, and page settings for this says, say I am already at grid 1. I now reload the page. That section that I have just added just appears on top of the page. It's easy as that. It's just plain HTML that you can add. Imagine you could very easily add much more than just a few HTML snippets. You could even add lots of JavaScript code and much more complex things as you need them. Back to the presentation. We will do a bit more on that. This is the custom grid example that I've just showed you. It's as easy as that, just dragging and dropping the file into the custom section files. Then you get to see exactly what I have showed you right now. That was customizing the grids. You know, as you might have understood, the grid being replaced in that case. So the page that was using grid number 1, all these pages would not have that header that I have showed to you. The second part will now be custom CSS, which gives you even more control over what you need. So it allows customizing the look and feel by using customized CSS. For everybody of you has heard that, and we try to make it possible that you can see how this is done. You can easily upload CSS and their graphics files into the XCC Settings tab, into the customized settings, and you can, of course, by that way create alternate style sheets to use in certain pages, which in this, if them on different pages, would give you the opportunity to colorize different pages for different business units in the colors they need. This could be one of the good examples of how to use that. All custom files of type CSS are by default selectable as page layouts. So the pictures show you there are a couple of files here: the custom CSS, the L big blue slider, the L colorful, and the L red CSS file. And you go to the page settings and try to change the layout. You get a selector that allows you to select default, which is the custom CSS, the L big blue slider, the colorful, and the red CSS. The default that you have, and if you would upload a new file to the custom file section, it would immediately appear over here, and you could select it. So next, do that. Yes, you need CSS knowledge, especially about specificity. If you don't know what that means, you would have to take another short session on CSS. Absolutely essentially necessary to know about that. Use Chrome Developer Tools or Firefox Developer Toolbar in order to be able to work with CSS. It's a theoretical task, but in the end, it is very practical task, and you would absolutely love to use or the developer toolbar. Custom files are loaded last in XCC, which is important to know because that way you could easily override settings that are there. You can even declare classes like the class from IBM Connections with that. You could redeclare classes that XCC is providing and make them look differently. And you could even redeclare Bootstrap classes, as we are extensively using Bootstrap. You should not redeclare any Bootstrap classes unless you know what you're doing. You could do other harms on that and not use classes that are provided by Bootstrap. We have seen a few years with customers who wing this, and it's not a practice to do that. Many people know the important keyword as one of the fun things in CSS because it makes the setting work very fast, but you should know use important as the last resort, and really only as the last resort if nothing else works. You should know the page's ID means the name of the page is added as a class name of the body classes of each. That way, you could create only one corporate style sheet added to every page and denominate only by the page ID to differentiate between different pages. A widget type is added to the node containing its data attribute. That means if you have a clipping widget or if you have a news widget, the internal type is XCC news, and you would see that. And you could create a specificity on especially that widget that would give you the opportunity to change only the layout of one particular widget. How is it done? Images are always located in very same location as the custom CSS. If you import CSS from somewhere else and the graphics files that are required by that CSS are located in different folders, you need to rewrite your imported CSS in that case. That's rarely the case if you that it is always at the same position. You cannot create any folders in XCC's custom files, and that's why it will just in the same folder for reference. You need to reference accordingly. One last hint, you can target connections classes with XCC custom CSS, but you have to keep in mind if this will work only on XCC pages because that CSS is only loaded on XCC pages and not on the connections pages like when you are in the blogs application or in the wiki application. You just have to know that. And if you want to make that CSS file available there, you would have to modify or customize the header.jsp or footer.jsp. Okay. Do a small custom CSS example. We'll try to achieve one goal. We want to make the widget titles on a page appear in time track blue. I want to have the face colored in the time track orange. For that, we need to change, for one, the header of the turning from white to blue, and we would, on the other hand, need to change the color of the font inside that header, turning from black to orange code. I had a few, well, actually two styles, which is then XCC style, XCC widget, and with header. That's the names of the classes that are used, found out just by using developer tools in Chrome. We will put exactly this 3 lines into one CSS file, and one second line for changing the color of the font, which is an XCC style, XCC widget, the header and W title. Just address that font face very specifically and set the color to the orange. And if you do this in Atom, I call file a Webcast CSS, and I see exactly the same settings or same CSS is already prepared in that file. I have chosen an answer of my choice again, and in this case it is Atom, and it's easy that you just go to the. Let me quickly minimize the presentation. Then you go into the Customize section, you XCC settings, you take the Webcast CSS, you drag over to use drag and drop, or you could even use the Upload File button. You put in there, it was just uploaded, it's only 127 bytes. And after the page, sorry, it's not in there because I did not set that value. We are still at the layout custom CSS. You would not be able to use the Webcast CSS that I have just uploaded. You save it, it's reloaded, and you see titles of the headers and the titles of the widgets appear in blue with orange font face. So easy as that, and you might imagine you do so much more on that. You could create rounded borders on the widgets. You could read borders of the widgets at all. We have done this before for particular layouts, and by that you could really easily. Please go on mute. Thank you. But you could really change the entire layout.
Привет.
Still here? I hope so. I hope you go back to the presentation right now. With this part, we have achieved change I had in the slide already. We have done it live. Now we get over to the custom JavaScript. Running custom JavaScript inside XCC, your start would be the custom JS file, which is by default, which already comes with a function wrapper that you could use. It's XCC init because you know if the function is executed by XCC in the XCC init function, the XCC has already been loaded and you have all XCC functionality available at that point. You could, of course, add even CSS and out of sorry, not CSS. You could add JavaScript outside of that function call, but then you have to take care of about everything. jQuery is your best mate because it's beyond jQuery. Try to mute everyone who is, because it seemed not to work with the muting yourself. Okay.
You forgot to enable or to share your screen, so we can see your screen since 2 or 3 minutes.
Okay. So now my screen again. as I said, jQuery is your best mate here. jQuery is really worth learning if you're coding JavaScript because it's that fast, and you all have it available in the latest version with XCC. Just a gentle reminder, if you try to start coding with jQuery, never load jQuery twice. It is already loaded when you are inside XCC, so there's just no need to load it again. I have taken some care of that possibility, but you will get a lot of confusion when it comes to plugins in jQuery, so that's why it's much better to never load jQuery twice. If you load additional libraries, modules, plugins, whatever you need, the thing to do is using XCC.require, which is an API call that is publicly available. Everybody can use it. And in fact, XCC.require is a call to require.js. Require.js is a available JavaScript module that you can use. We have it there. It's well documented, and it really helps you to load XCC and other modules they need. And of course, create even your own libs and require them later on, which makes it possible to do really good and distributed development work in your company. Hook into custom.js if you are going that way. I'm speaking of creating your own modules. I have shown you that file that extensively. Well, easy as that, just upload JavaScript files to the custom files section and require them with XCC require call from the custom.js or from the HTML widgets or from custom widgets. Uploading of JavaScript files is limited to webmasters because it's in the custom files sections. You have to know that. So you just have to work together with the webmasters of XCC if you want to do that. HTML widgets and many other widgets become extremely powerful with that option because you can easily and quickly create new functionality by just leveraging that is not yet there. But we have our own session on very long and complex topic. Just to mention, XCC comes with an API in the global namespace XCC. It means, just example, XCC is the name and .require is the method that you call, and that means you can easily call anywhere on the page XCC.require and then put it in the callback that you want to call after requiring something. Or you could use XCC tools namespace, which comes with handy functionality like XCC tools message box, which allows you to bring up just a mode message box on page, and many more. But as I already said, part of a different session that we will have in the future. And just to give you one idea of what to use custom JavaScript for, well, one I had in the past was counting page views with tools outside connections, and in that case, the company wanted desperately to use Pivot because they had an extensive Pivot distribution in the company. And of course, do that with the custom.js. Just include the necessary few lines into the custom.js and you're done. You quickly add some nodes to the DOM, which means the thing that I have reached by adding some lines to the custom grid could well be done with custom Java as well, but more difficult. In this might make sense because you want to show information that's very dynamically and need to be done with JavaScript. And of course, we use this, and you could use this as a patch functionality for XCC. If you want to enrich the functionality of a certain widget, or if you find an issue with a widget, it's easy one to get new functionality done by patching them in via custom JavaScript, and that's what we're doing. In fact, if it comes to an issue with any customer, or if a customer needs more functionality. In fact, the custom.js file is also the file where we put custom widgets into, which we'll cover in one of the next sessions. That's about customizing, and now let's get to the last part, controlling the content. The content will cover the following part, like that are picking source entries. As I already said, it will also contain the part of personalization, of personalizing widgets, which the passive personalization and active personalization. I will explain what it means. We'll have some on-profile extensions, and I will tell you how display source as the widget's title will help you to create an even more or even better user experience to the user, and will help you with personalization. So let's show you one of the things that some people seems to be very obvious. Pick source entries. Normally, top news or news widgets are shown in a particular blog that you select as a source. But in cases, blogs are written very, very fast. So in the morning there's a blog entry, and at noon there's a blog entry, and in the afternoon there's a third entry. Nevertheless, the blog from the morning is still extremely important. But if you're doing a stream from that blog, the blog morning is just gone away at noon. And that's why the master could select going from the latest entry to a selected entry and say, well, let's select a particular entry and let this entry stay as long as I name them. But of course, the page stays as you set it. You select the page will look like. The downside is no news will update automatically anymore. So you have to curate content from day to day again and again. There are source entries. The personalization, which is a different way of controlling the content. The targeting the audience from the side of the corporate communications team with appropriate content can become a rocket science, because it's so difficult to decide what content is really good for whom and what is to be put on the very front page. And for the reason most intranets are overloaded and overcrowded with information to just everyone in the company, which indeed leads to confusion, and you have only one very tiny part where information is interesting for you, and the chance to overlook something is extremely high. It might be create the pages for every team, for every business unit, for every company in your organization, what it means, or even more pages. But in the end, you have to decide how to do it. There would be one content for every page. It could be the same person, but in a distributed company, this would be several persons, and in the end, this can become complex and costly just if they to each other, and there are many people working on that. Rescue to that could be XCC personalization. You target users on their particular properties, and you can fall back to default content where you cannot provide cannot provide the latest and the greatest. Fall back if none of your settings are fit to that particular user. I will show you what I mean by that. So there's personalization. One is passive personalization and one is active personalization. Let's first come to the passive personalization. That's personalization on attributes that a user cannot change himself. This is the name, the email address, the department, the company. Of course, the user can change the company, but in the end, he would probably not work for the same company anymore, or he would have an internal move. And he would have that internal move. It would be it would not. It would take days to do that. So he cannot do it on his own from the morning to the afternoon. And the same goes with the name or mail address or something like that. These things that are set by the administrators to that particular person. And of course, you can personalize on these attributes like the department. People from the department get some particular news that are coming from an IT-related blog. If people are coming from a marketing department, they get news from a marketing-related blog on the widget. And that's probably more interesting to them. Passive personalization means. Then to the active personalization, which is in nothing but a user can change in his profile, like which doesn't really make sense to personalize on the address, but it could be some field called interests. You create a widget that lets people select an interest and present them something. Let's think of a market guy who is heavily interested in IT. So he could select IT, still get IT news on such a particular, or show news based on the region of your choice. Let's say you are a European employed person and you have to work for about a month in the US. So in Europe, but the US news in your company are more relevant to you than they were before. And you use a region of your choice by a property in your file to achieve that. Now have a look on how the personalization could be done. Such a personalization editor that we are using, and I have put a screenshot onto it, allows for a quick and easy creation of personalization rules. That's what we need to create all this experience. So in case, what we see here on the right, we have a default source, which is the fallback and should normally be the last resort at the end, but for a better, we put it at the top. And after that, we all the personalized attributes of the profile. Read the first line, which is like, if the profile attribute interest has profile value finances for user, then the source should be finance. If the profile attribute interest is innovation, then there should be something else. So it goes on and on. These rules are evaluated secretly, and if one of those rules matches, all the others are not evaluated anymore because only one matched. If not matches, the default source is used over here. If you do that, you can even use some personalization tester, as we call it, to check if a particular user gets the source that might be interesting for him. So if one user complains about he doesn't see anything, you can quickly test if your rules are working by testing with that particular user. The editor you can reach from the personalizable widgets like the news widgets or the wiki widgets, or ideation blog widgets, and you can even use the very same editor to personalize the start page with XCC. Let's come to profile extensions. And there's one sentence to say profile extensions extend active and personalization to a new level. I already said without telling you that and this is profile extension what we are doing. When I was talking about that ominous interest field in the profile, I was talking about a profile extension. Profile extensions can do even much more for your users. You can get users to accept init guidelines, and these users then set a value in their profile where they stored they have accepted the intranet guidelines. Or you can personalize the start page so that new users run through an onboarding wizard. They just have to think like upload photo, complete your profile, get to know the rules, see some introductory video, connect to your colleagues, connect to your mates, give yourself some tags, subscribe to some tags, and so on and so on. All the important things that you need to do when you start with IBM Connections. You can use profile extensions to get the users to store their own values and then create a very custom user experience. And that does not only mean creating a custom personalization, but also do something more. I will show on the next slide. But before that, I will show you that you can use profile extension values for personalization by using the profile extension's name, which is most of the times cryptic, and a speak name for the personalization editor. This is done in the customization in the file sections. There is always a file which is called personalization properties, and you can edit this field with the online editor in XCC. I can show you just by opening, going to sections. There should be such a file, personalization properties. You can add it, and then you can use the address field or address 1 field and call it better address. And the S2 field, you call it other information 1. And that's what you later select in the personalization editor. As all the changes immediately, no need to distribute them. In any case, you just edit them, save them, and that's done. So the profile extension example that I have mentioned is a thing that a couple of customers have installed in the meantime. We have created a profile extension field. That means that this field is editable, but the user does not see it. And we will set and read values with XCC just in the background. And in this case, we have created a custom widget for these customers that allows to have some very personal links, like a personalized mail link to the mail database of that user, having a chat system in the company, having a link to the group calendar of the company, having a link to some more things like a console system, whatever, or some other portal that is needed. And user can go to the icon on the top right, can go into the edit mode and select what they want to see here, because the users just do not need that console link because they are not ever using such a console, or only the high power users, or other people do not use NetViewer or NetVoice or whatever. They just need all of the other links, and that way they can personalize even this link list. You can even create with profile extensions. And yeah, the examples are subscribing to corporate links, and one extension here is the user's birthday that can be put into the profile. The user can set this birthday themselves, and if they want to appear in such a birthday list, they just leave it blank. And we're using this birthday profile extension, especially for the people birthday widget, which you might have seen is a widget that shows up what people have a birthday today, so that you can be polite and give them a congratulation on that particular day. As a last part for today, I would love to show you that you can use the widget's source name as the widget's title. This sound and using such a magic string as mentioned over here seems to be very cryptic and complicated, but in the end, it helps to understand where the news are coming from for the user, because using that source name tag that we use over here allows you within personalization to show the the name of the source that has been pulled out of personalization as the title of a widget. So if you're analyzing on certain properties and you don't really know what the result will be, the user could tell you, well, my widget is called XCC Global Content, and then you know it is the source is the XCC Global Content blog, and that's where you can then have a look at. And from users, this could even be very, very helpful to have the name of the blog in there. Okay. I'm almost done with everything, and we have a few more minutes to answer questions. I try to quickly open the lines to give answers, and there are questions, and I will start looking into the chat if there was anything that was left over and Christian had no time to answer in the meantime. Questions at the moment. If not, I would then say thank you for listening. Thank you for your time. We will scan through the questions that have been in there, and it's an easy one for you to get in contact with the with my Jakes, Björn, and Philip, which may help you to answer questions. If there are any that are coming after this session, of course, you can even send Christian or me a mail. Just feel free to send a mail asking if there is anything unclear or if you need help for anything more. A wonderful weekend, and thank you for listening. That was. Hope to hear you next week. Thank you. Bye-bye.